This topic has a long list of threats and they blur together under exam pressure, so before the list, an organizing idea. Every attack here targets one of three things. Some target the machine, malware that gets onto a system and does damage there. Some target the credentials, attacks on the password itself by computation, and some target the person, deceiving a human being into handing something over or doing something they should not. Sorting each threat into machine, password, or person makes the differences that examiners test far easier to hold, and it prevents the commonest error in this section, which is describing a technical attack when the question asked about a human one, or the reverse. Malware is the first category, malicious software targeting the machine. A virus is code that attaches itself to a file or program and replicates when that file is opened, corrupting data or causing the system to malfunction. A worm is similar but self-replicating across networks without needing a host file or any user action, which is what makes worms spread so fast. A Trojan horse is malicious software disguised as legitimate software. The user installs it themselves believing it is something useful, which is why it needs no security flaw to succeed. Spyware secretly records what a user does, most importantly keystrokes, capturing passwords and card numbers as they are typed. Adware displays unwanted advertising, and although it is often more nuisance than danger, it can carry worse things. And ransomware encrypts the user's files and demands payment for the key. Note what ransomware does. It uses encryption, the topic 2.3 mechanism, as a weapon. Your files are still there and still intact. You simply cannot read them, which is exactly the property encryption is supposed to provide, turned against the owner. The second group targets the data or the service rather than the machine. Data interception is the capturing of data as it travels across a network. Packet sniffing on an unsecured wireless network, for instance. And this is where encryption from 2.3 answers directly. Intercepted ciphertext is useless, which is the point of HTTPS on every site you log into. A denial of service attack, DOS, floods a server with so many requests that it cannot respond to legitimate ones, so the service becomes unavailable. A distributed denial of service, DDoS, does the same from many machines at once, which makes it far harder to block, since there is no single source to shut out. Note what a DOS attack does not do. It does not steal anything and does not break in. It makes a service unavailable, which is a different kind of harm and a distinction questions test. And hacking is gaining unauthorized access to a computer system, which may lead to data being deleted, altered, corrupted, or stolen. Now, the third target, the password itself. A brute force attack tries every possible combination of characters until it finds the right one, using software making millions of attempts per second. And this is the one threat here whose seriousness is genuinely a numbers argument, so let us do the numbers. Take lowercase letters only, 26 possibilities per character. A 4-character password gives 26 to the power of 4, which is about 450,000 combinations. A machine testing 1,000,000 per second finishes that in under a second. 6 characters, 300 million combinations, about 5 minutes. 8 characters, 200 billion, around 2.5 days. 10 characters, 141 trillion combinations, roughly 4.5 years. And 12 characters, 95 quadrillion, which is about 3,000 years. Look at what is happening there. Each character added multiplies the total by 26, so the difficulty does not grow steadily, it explodes. And now add complexity as well. Using uppercase, digits and symbols takes the per character possibilities from 26 to about 95, so a 12-character mixed password is astronomically harder still. But notice which factor did the heavy lifting. Going from 8 characters to 12 at the same complexity moved the time from days to millennia. That is why the advice is length first. Every extra character multiplies. Adding a symbol to a short password only widens the base. One distinction to keep clear, because it is the most common confusion in this section. A brute force attack involves no deception whatsoever. Nobody is tricked, nobody hands anything over, and no human is involved on the victim's side at all. It is a computational attack on the password itself. That is what separates it from everything in the next section. and it explains why the defenses look the way they do. Limiting login attempts, so the account locks after a few failures, defeats a brute force attack completely because the whole method depends on making millions of attempts. That single measure turns an attack that would succeed in days into one that cannot proceed past its third guess. Which brings us to the third target, the person. Social engineering is manipulating people into giving away confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. And the reason it is so effective is that it bypasses every technical protection. The strongest encryption in the world does not help if someone tells the attacker their password. Phishing sends fraudulent emails or messages appearing to come from a legitimate organization, containing a link to a fake website that captures whatever is entered. Farming is more sophisticated and worth distinguishing carefully because the pair comes up constantly. In farming, malicious code redirects the victim to a fraudulent website even when they type the correct address. So with phishing, you clicked a bad link. With farming, you typed the right address and were redirected anyway, which connects straight back to DNS in 5.1, since redirecting the name to address lookup is one way it is done. That is why farming is harder to spot. The usual advice, check the address before you click, does not protect you when the address was correct. 3 more in the same family. Shoulder surfing is simply observing someone entering a PIN or password at a cash machine, on a train, over a shoulder in an office. Low-tech and remarkably effective. Baiting leaves something tempting for the victim to pick up. A USB drive left in a car park, labeled something interesting, which infects the machine when plugged in, and pretexting is inventing a scenario to obtain information, telephoning an employee while claiming to be from the IT department and asking them to confirm their password. What unites all of these is that the technology is not being attacked at all. The person is, which is why the defense against them is not software but training and awareness, and why an answer about antivirus software does not address a social engineering question. 4 things to take into the exam. First, sort the threat by what it targets, the machine, the password, or the person, because that tells you what kind of answer is wanted. Second, be precise on the pairs that are easy to confuse. Virus needs a host file and user action. Worm self-replicates across a network without either. Phishing means you clicked a fraudulent link. Farming means you were redirected despite typing the correct address. DOS comes from one source, DDoS from many. Third, describe a brute force attack as trying every possible combination automatically and be able to say why length is the strongest defense. Each extra character multiplies the number of combinations. And fourth, remember that social engineering attacks the person, so the defense is user education and awareness. Naming a piece of software as the answer to a human problem is the mistake that section is designed to catch.